Good day and welcome to the Fintech Atlas by Financial IT. I'm pleased to be joined by Sarah Kachansky, who is the Chief Executive of Fintech Wales. Sarah, greetings, and thank you very much for making time to speak with us this afternoon. Our first question is what it is for all our interviewees. Could you please explain who is Fintech Wales? What's your history? What are your objectives?
Sure, absolutely. Thank you very much for having me. So Fintech Wales is a membership organisation, and we exist to promote, support and grow the fintech and financial services industries in Wales. So we do that through 4 key pillars, which are helping companies secure investment, amplifying our members and Wales's successes. We provide a link between academia and industry to ensure that Wales has an ever-growing pool of fintech talent, and we ensure that there is a thriving fintech and financial services ecosystem here. Our members include brand new startups, sort of 1 or 2 people, scaling fintechs, all the way up to large financial services organisations with some household names in the UK, for example, Admiral. And we also have associates who support the financial services ecosystem here in Wales.
Brilliant. How many startups do you have or think that you have in Wales?
That is a brilliant question. So I can tell you that our membership is over 150 across the board, across that cross-section of members I just listed to you. In terms of the startups, it's actually something that has not been recorded very clearly to date, largely because of the difficulty in defining a fintech. Yeah. I'm sure you'll have come across that before in other conversations, but it is something that we are working on as Fintech Wales to make sure that there is perhaps a clearer picture of what the ecosystem looks like.
Excellent. And is the ecosystem basically in Cardiff, or is it all over Wales?
So as you'd imagine, a large proportion of it is in Cardiff, but there are significant pockets of activity outside of Cardiff as well. So we have members further west, we have members in the north of Wales as well. So, for example, if you look at perhaps some of the best known fintechs to have come out of Wales, you have the comparison websites, insurance comparison websites. So Money Supermarket is based up in North Wales, and it's got a thriving ecosystem of startups around it up there.
And forgive my ignorance, and for the benefit of viewers who are not familiar with Wales, when you say North Wales, what are the towns that you're talking about?
Wrexham is probably the one that is most well known right now. There's a certain Ryan Reynolds who has something to do with that.
Yes. And who are the universities who are most active in the ecosystem?
Well, all our academic institutions are very active across Wales. There is we have a significant number of universities, as you mentioned. We also have a significant number of colleges. So they are across the board active in fintech and financial services.
And being active, are they mainly A, doing research and interesting stuff, or are they B, training people to work in fintech?
Absolutely both. So we have several universities here that offer fintech MSc courses. We also have there isn't a single university out there that isn't looking at research into the use of technology in financial services. Yes. So there are, across South Wales, a number of academic research groups, which include members from all the major universities.
And when you were set up, who established you? Was it the Welsh government, or was it players within the ecosystem, or some other organisation?
So we have an interesting history. We're a relatively new organisation. We've been around for, I'm going to say, around 5 years, though it depends on how you consider the inception date, if you like. Sure. We were founded by a gentleman called Richard Theo, who's the founder of Wealthify, which is a fintech that many of your readers and viewers may well have heard of if they're based in the UK. Yes. He was at the time the fintech envoy for Wales. But we were he was our founder, and we've been through several iterations since then, but we are, as I said, a membership organisation, so we're not part of Welsh Government. We are a completely independent organisation who stands alone. Right.
If you look back over the last 2 to 3 years, what are the successes, triumphs that you'd highlight?
Yes, so I have, just for a little bit of context, before I took on this role, I was working as a freelancer and a consultant in the fintech space. And one of the things I did was write research reports for various clients, including Fintech Wales. So I've written their annual report for the past 2 years before I took this job, which means that I have actually first-hand experience on seeing kind of how things have grown and changed in the country. Yes. So the analysis, my analysis from the last annual report showed that investment into Welsh fintech increased 300% between 2022 and 2023, which if you look at the broader economic climate is pretty good going.
Yes.
We're also particularly proud of our work in the skills area. So I mentioned we work in partnership with several educational organizations, and we deliver a number of academies to create junior data analysts, front-end developers, back-end developers, and they're ready to join our ecosystem. And so far, I'm correct in saying I believe that 81% of people who've come to those academies have found a job in fintech or tech. Yes. So we're very, very pleased with that success. And I guess from our perspective as Fintech Wales, our own membership is increasing. So we were up 55% year on year, which is fantastic news for us, but also for the wider ecosystem, because that means we're getting more and more people into our ecosystem that we can connect to each other.
Brilliant. If you look forward to the next 2 to 3 years, what are the triumphs and successes that you expect?
I hate this question. It's like somebody saying, have you got a crystal ball? So my job is to build upon the amazing foundations that we have here at Fintech Wales, and we need to scale the organisation. We need to take Fintech Wales to the next level in order to enhance our support for Welsh fintech and financial services. In terms of the trends that we're already starting to see that we would hope would blossom into successes, we're seeing more fintechs gaining funding from a range of sources, including the recently set up Fintech Growth Fund and the British Business Bank's Investment Fund for Wales as well as more established sources like VCs who, forgive me, some of whom I'm not sure knew Wales existed until recently. So they are starting to wake up to the brilliant ecosystem that we have happening over here. And the other one that I think is really interesting, particularly from the perspective of this conversation, is that we're starting to see Welsh fintechs go international. That's great news for them, of course, but it's also for Wales because it helps to raise the country's profile internationally and to cement our reputation as a leading global fintech hub.
Fantastic. One of the things we've found in the various interviews is that there is, in fact, a lot of stuff happening in the world of fintech in the United Kingdom outside Greater London, but it's not happening evenly, and Wales is clearly one of the hotspots.
Yes, I mean that's very kind of you to say so, but I believe so.
And it leads to another question, which is, do you liaise or collaborate at all with roughly peer organizations in other parts of the country?
Yes, we do. So we're part of the Fintech National Network, which includes Fintech Scotland, Fintech Northern Ireland, and the various regional UK fintech bodies. So, for example, Fintech North, Fintech Midlands. So we all work together, as well as with Innovate Finance, who's obviously the London-centric fintech organisation. Great.
As you know, the Centre for Finance, Innovation and Technology was set up to address a number of challenges, of which they've identified 5. I appreciate that you'd like to talk about these challenges qualitatively in Wales and how they affect Wales. So as I go through them, if you could give a quick comment, that would be tremendous. CFIT considers that the first challenge is regulations, or more specifically, the regulators are struggling to keep up with the actual developments in fintech.
So I think by its nature, fintech is a fast-moving industry, and by their nature, regulators have to move slightly more slowly in order to ensure that any rules and regulations they're putting in are appropriate. That does sometimes create a lag, which can in turn create some frustration. That said, we at Fintech Wales, we work really closely with the regulators, and one of our jobs is to facilitate dialogue between the regulators and our members to make sure that voices are being heard.
Great. Problem number 2, which you've spoken about, is funding. Some fintech entrepreneurs lack access to the capital that they need.
Yes, that is true across the world, and Wales is no exception, much as I wish we were the exception. We are lucky in Wales that we have a couple of specific funding sources. I did mention the Investment Fund for Wales. Yeah. We also have the Development Bank for Wales, which provides loans and equity to companies in the country. That said, more funding is always welcome. So as I mentioned, I would encourage any London-based investors to look outside of their historic markets and see what else is out there.
Well said. Challenge 3, you've also spoken about and it's talent. Many of the fintech players have been struggling to find the talented people that they need.
I think, again, this is a perennial problem with the fact that the technology moves faster than the educational system, which wherever you are in the world. One of the things that we're really, really keen on tackling here is making sure that we speak to our members to find out what they actually need, because the working environment, the business environment is changing, and we can then
Yes.
feed that back to the educational establishments and suggest where they might need to make changes to their own programs.
Challenge 4 is trade barriers, and that means that there have been constraints on international trade which may limit the opportunity for fintech firms that might otherwise be available. Has international trade barriers been a challenge for you?
It's not something I can speak on with any sort of understanding or knowledge. What I will say is that we have seen Welsh fintechs expand internationally very successfully. We also, as Fintech Wales, work closely with the Welsh government's import and export teams to try and make sure that if there are any trade barriers, we can help them be overcome.
Excellent. And the final challenge is collaboration or lack of it. As Sifa put it, protagonists across the fintech industry, government, academia, educational institutions, financial circles, and the companies themselves have been operating in silos and not communicating enough.
That's not a problem that we necessarily have as Fintech Wales, because one of our jobs is collaboration. We are here to facilitate collaboration. So we work with partners in all of those areas that you've just mentioned to make sure that dialogue is occurring across all the various spaces. We do things like help host round tables to bring people together to discuss important issues. That said, I will say that Wales is one of the brilliant things about us as a country is that we are a close community. And people are always very willing to work together to help out, to reach down and pass on success.
Yes. Brilliant. Our very final one is a question, is a general and open one. Are there any other observations that you'd like to make or highlight any subjects that we should have spoken about but haven't?
Not on top of my head, no. I think we've covered most of it.
Sarah Kachansky, this has been a fast-moving, wide-ranging, and very clear discussion. Thank you very much indeed for your time this afternoon.
Thank you very much for having me.